but so it's an exciting time for us. We're a nonprofit organization. Our focus is on housing and community development, and our mission is to create housing and related opportunities for people in Syracuse, Central and Upstate New York. And we're trying to help families and individuals and also neighborhoods and communities. So if you want to go to the next slide, that would be great. So I wanted to kind of give a broad overview of some of the things that Home Headquarters does. And I kind of like to think about it in sort of 3 lines of business, although there's more details for each. But overall, we have a whole sort of arm of Home Headquarters that does home buyer education and counseling, helping people prepare for home ownership. That can include financial counseling, which we partner with the Financial Empowerment Center as well. And it can also include, getting your finances in order for home purchase. There's classes and one-on-one sessions. Another sort of line of business is lending, and we do not only home improvement lending but also home purchase lending. So we do a lot of first mortgages for people who want to buy a home. We have closing cost assistance. We also help out landlords who want to make improvements to their properties, and we do some commercial loans as well if it makes sense in sort of like a neighborhood revitalization strategy where there might be a business entity that kind of contributes to the overall strategy. So a lot of lending. And then property development, I guess, is sort of our third major line of business, where we do substantial rehabilitation on properties that we acquire to then sell to new owners and new construction. And we have our own real estate company where we can help people find houses. We can help people sell their house. So that sort of in a nutshell is what Home Headquarters is. So if we want to go to the next slide, I will talk a little bit in general about our home improvement line of business, because that's where I spend all of my time. And so just some very broad points here is that we do have all sorts of different programs. I think we have 17 right now, actually. And so we can help homeowners, and sometimes those loans could have a non-payback component. Right now, for investors who own rental property, there is one program available in the 13205 zip code where landlords can upgrade their windows and doors with the goal of eliminating lead hazards in those properties. And then the programs themselves are quite diverse, and there's a lot of different nuances to them. Some programs you can qualify for based on the type of work you want done. Some are income based, some are for specific neighborhoods. So it's pretty, I guess, complicated, which kind of leads me into my next slide. In that, I'll skip to my second point here for a moment. What we like to say is that we will always work to help people who come to us to find the best possible program that we have available to them right now. So like I said, there's 17 programs, all with their own rules and regulations. It's very complicated and almost impossible for somebody to kind of self-select and say, oh, well, I want to apply for that program. Because you may not know, oh, because of this one little thing, you don't qualify for that program. So the best way to kind of approach things with Home Headquarters is just submit an application. We have a couple of different ones on our website, which I'll talk about later. And you kind of make us do the work. We take the information you submit to us, and we will see where you fit and come back to you and say, hey, this is what we have. This is the best possible thing we have for you right now. Another big item is that we get 1 million calls a day asking if we have grants for fixing up homes, which we really don't have full grants for people, with one exception, which is the SHARP program. I'll talk a little bit about that. Most of the time, and we believe that it's important for our programs to have at least some sort of payback component, because I think it brings a certain level of commitment and responsibility to a home improvement project when the owner themselves is investing and paying, back at least a portion. And we find that our customers are amazing at paying us back. We have a very low delinquency rate. which is amazing. And I think it's because people know that, we're giving them a hand up, that they might not be able to go to a bank and get the type of financing that we can offer them at home headquarters. So it's almost impossible for us to say no to you. We can almost always find some way to assist, which is something that I really like about, this area of our business. We have so many different funding sources. It really does allow us to help somebody most of the time. So I was going to just talk a little bit more about some of our programs, and then I can certainly leave it open for questions. So if you want to go to the next slide. I guess on my last slide, I forgot to mention, I'll just say it now, that, sometimes people are worried that they don't have a good credit score, and that maybe they're not going to qualify for our loan. And I would say credit is not always a determining factor in our decision. Sometimes it is, but it isn't always. So whenever I talk to somebody, I say, hey, listen, it's worth just applying. It doesn't cost you anything, but I guess a little bit of time to, gather the materials. But most of the time we can figure out a way. And if the credit is not great, we have, resources and partners. We can always refer you to the Financial Empowerment Center to kind of work on maybe some of the issues you're facing. But it's not something that should deter you from even inquiring or applying. So this is our one program, super popular, that is a full grant, although there is a homeowner contribution, because like I said, we don't like to just offer full grants to anybody. So it's a $1,500 grant, and the owner will contribute 10% of the cost up to $100. And it's for small exterior repairs. You do have to be income qualified or live in a NERSA, which is a special area of the city of Syracuse where it doesn't matter what your income is, you could still participate in this program. And usually, because it is probably the only sort of grant program out there for home repairs, the program will open in March of each year, and it is closed within a day or two at the maximum. And we have great partners, NEDA being one and Syracuse United Neighbors being the other, who also help people that they're working with get an application and get into the program each year. Right now it's currently closed because, like I said, we opened it in March this year and it was closed by probably the end of one day. But it's always good. So people start asking us about this at the beginning of each year. So it's always good to check in with us around February, March to see, if we have any sense of when we might be opening it back up. So if you want to go to the next slide.
Can I just interject, Kim, quickly?
Sure.
People? So a NERSA is a neighborhood revitalization strategy area, and the city of Syracuse has two. One is on the north side, and most of the north side is included in the NERSA, and the other is on the south and west side. And they're both areas that the city's identified that need extra support and concentration. So that's why it's part of the program. And if you want to learn more about those, feel free to reach out.
All right, so kind of, I guess, maybe a companion to the SHARP program. This is our urgent care program, and this is for, sometimes people will come to through SHARP and say, oh, my roof is leaking, I just need it patched, or my porch, I need help with my porch. And sometimes, well, almost always, really, SHARP is not going to cover that sort of a repair. It's going to cover a patch or a fix for a short amount of time, but ultimately that problem is going to come back and crop up again, and the person is just not going to be happy ultimately with that little band-aid approach. So this is a program that, again, is available in the city of Syracuse. Same thing, you do have to be income qualified or live in one of those areas that Andrea was talking about, the NERSAs. And these are for bigger type situation. So roofs, furnaces, so no heat, no hot water. You have a sewage backup, you have an electrical problem. These are for very specific types of emergencies that are listed here, but it can provide assistance to cover a roof, which, as we were talking about earlier, can be upwards of $20,000 $1,000 or usually more these days. The nice thing about this is there is a sliding scale based on your income. So you pay back a portion and a part of it is deferred. We say deferred, which is the same as basically a grant, but there are strings attached to that because nothing's ever really free, right? I mean, you have to live in the house for a certain amount of time. And after that time, then that portion is forgiven and you do not have to pay it back. So it's a great way to help people who are low income, don't have a lot of money, who might have some credit issues where they can't go to a bank and get $20,000 for a loan or a roof. And we can still help make it affordable for people in that situation through this program. This is usually available year round. There's been a couple times where we've had to kind of shut it down and just kind of keep people on hold. But right now it's still open. So it's one of our really popular programs, and it's just a really great way for us to help people who can't usually find another solution to finance some of these major home repair issues. And if we want to go to the next slide, kind of sort of in contrast to the two programs I talked about earlier is our Flex Fund program. This is a program for anybody. Anybody in New York State could get this loan from us. You could be making $1 million and you could still get this loan from us. This loan, as the name implies, is much more flexible. So you can pretty much do anything you want with it, which is nice. So if you want to repair your kitchen or upgrade your bathroom or redo your basement, these are the types of repairs. Well, it can be anything. It can be a roof. It could be anything that you could possibly need to repair or just improve because you want to in your property. There's no income or geographic restrictions. It is 100% payback loan, but that's fine. And in contrast to some of these other programs, you do have to meet some underwriting standards. So you have to have a credit score above 640 or above, and your debt ratio has to be 45% or less. But again, even if you don't fall within those two numbers, we have other funding sources where we can do the same types of things, where we can be more flexible on the credit score and the underwriting criteria. So this is just to kind of point out that while we have some programs that might have a grant component that are very restrictive to the type of repairs, we also have others that can pretty much do anything that you're interested in doing. And if you want to go to the next slide, I just wanted to highlight a new program that we've just recently had come online. We're calling it the County COVID 1% program. And it's for people who, right now, there are specific areas throughout Onondaga County, which are too many to list actually, but they're listed on our website, and some city neighborhoods, including Courtwood Lawn, the North Side, and Washington Square. We are hoping, as a side note, that it may be expanded countywide at some point soon, but right now there are a few restrictions. This is for anybody who had any type of COVID impact or hardship throughout the entire pandemic. So you may have had been on unemployment maybe last year in April, and you're not now, but you did have that situation at the time. You would still qualify for this program, which is really nice. So you don't have to have a current COVID impact. You could have had one at any time during the pandemic. And this is a loan that you're paying back 70% at 1% interest, which is a great deal. A 1% interest rate is awesome. And 30% is that deferred loan, or that part that will get forgiven over time if you live in your house during the term of the loan. It is targeted again towards specific types of repairs. So these emergency type things where you've got a leaking roof or you don't have hot water or heat. And there is an income requirement. The source of funds is federal, and they always have an income requirement. But it's a great deal if there are people that sort of meet that income requirement. Again, sometimes if you have a lower income and you've had a financial impact from COVID, it's really hard to imagine taking a loan out to, make an improvement to your home, to fix your roof. But this is designed to make it as affordable as possible for somebody in that situation. And again, it could be for any, at any time during the pandemic, which I think is the nice part. you don't have to be having a problem right now. So again, maybe at the time you couldn't have afforded it. Now you're back to work and you can, and it's just a great deal. So I wanted to put that out there. This is new. There's lots of slots available for the funding now. So it's a good time to kind of to come in on that one. And then we can go to the next slide. And so, like I said, how do you apply? This is sort of the first page of our application. They all look the same. There's various ones that might have different logos targeted to certain neighborhoods, but essentially they're all the same. So no matter what application you fill out, we still look to see the best program possible for you. And it doesn't matter which one you print out and send in from the website. And that's kind of a good way, a good resource. I actually go to our website all the time to remind myself about our variety of programs and requirements. So that's a great resource, the homehq.org. This will list all of the different home improvement programs we have available, including neighborhood specific programs. There are applications that you can print out and fill out and submit. Right now, we're working on a way where you can submit an application online. We don't quite have that up and running, but it's coming soon. We also have a lot of our customers cannot access things on the computer, which is completely fine. We're very used to that. So we can either mail applications out to people. We have some always in our lobby, which can be picked up at any time. So there's a lot of ways to get the application, a lot of ways to get the information to us. We're really flexible. We kind of tell people, whatever is easiest for you, however you can get it to us, we're happy to accommodate. And I think that brings me to my last slide, which just gives you information about how to contact us, how to find out more information. If you call, there will be someone to answer any questions you have. You can always email us. Like I said, again, the website is a great resource to find out more about, all the various programs we have. I just highlighted a few today, but there are many, many more. So that's kind of what I had to say today. I don't know if anyone has any questions or you want me to talk about other things. Happy to do so.
Do we have any questions right now?
Hello, my name is Tina, and I actually have a couple questions, if possible.
Great.
Sure.
Go ahead, Tina.
The first is, when applying for a loan through any of the various programs, is there a time frame from which when you apply to when you would have to have the work done? So let's say you applied in like June, but you didn't want to have the work done until like October. Is that okay or no?
That is okay. You can, so it depends on the program. We're pretty flexible with that though. Sometimes we are under pressure by our funding sources who give, the people who give us the money to do what we do, to make the loans, close them, complete the projects within a certain amount of time. Other times we have more flexibility. Generally speaking, we like to see that the work is done. Well, we have a notice to proceed that we send out to your contractor, which says, try to start the work within the first 30 days, try to finish it within 60. That's not a hard and fast rule. So if there are reasons that make sense why that can't happen, of course, we're flexible. As long as it's done in a reasonable amount of time, that's usually okay with us. If it starts taking a year or a year and a half, that's when we kind of start to nudge people and say, okay, you really got to get this done. You can always apply closer to the time that you want to get the work done. That's another option. But if we know in advance that you're applying now, but your work can't start until October, that's fine.
Okay, the reason that I asked was because it seems as if all contractors are like really busy and can't really give a time frame on when they could get work done. So it's just kind of like, okay, do I apply? Do I not apply? Do you have like a list of suggested contractors that may be available, not available? Because I know that they have to have certain certifications in order to do the work that's required under the loans.
Yeah, that's a good question. So just back to your question about applying or not applying, you made me think of something that sometimes does happen. So when you're applying, there are several months until you have to make your first payment. So I'm trying to think, if you apply in June, we're actually giving people, I think, until September or October even to start making their first payment. So that a lot of times people get irritated with us because they apply, their work hasn't yet started, and they have to start paying on their loan. And that is true. The loan is not related to whether or not the work has begun, but we do try to be flexible to people. You have to start paying us back on your first payment date, regardless of if your work has started. But like I said, we're giving people more of a time, I guess, until their first payments start because of the pandemic. So I think if you were to apply and close in the next couple of months, for example, you wouldn't even have your first payment starting until the fall anyways. So that's kind of I guess, a bonus, so that you wouldn't be paying on something that hadn't started. So in terms of contractors, some of our programs, yes, do require them to have certain insurances that we have to see and have on file. Others do not, actually. Some we just say, you know what, you've chosen this contractor, as long as they're a legitimate business, that's fine. And we don't really need to have their insurance on file. We really don't have a list of contractors that we keep or recommend. We find that that's somewhat problematic because, in my opinion, whenever anyone asks me about, what contractor should I select, who should I go to, I always tell them it's really a gut feeling. You have to go with who you're most comfortable with. That person's going to be working on your house. They're going to have to be someone you can deal with if there are any concerns or conflicts or problems or, things you have to work through. So my recommendation is, if you have any hesitation about any contractor, you should not go with them. You should definitely find someone else. Now, that being said, if we have customers who are having a really, really hard time and they have an urgent concern and they really do need help, there are contractors who we've seen work with a lot of our customers. We're helping 600, 700, 800 people a year. So yes, we do see certain contractors frequently working with our customers. So what we will do is say, hey, these people, generally, we've gotten good feedback about them from our other customers. If you want to give them a try, you're welcome to. Again, you'd never have to choose them, but we do try to help people who are kind of stuck in that regard. But ultimately, it is always the customer's choice and who they go with. As long as the person, again, like you said, for some of these programs, we do require them to have certain insurances. So that would be the one thing that might, if you brought somebody in and you really liked them, but you were getting certain funding and they didn't have the insurances, we wouldn't be able to do that. But aside from that, as long as they did, it's really the customer's choice.
Okay. Thank you for explaining those two questions. Thank you for answering those two questions. And then I think I just had two more. And the third question would be, let's say you're approved for a loan for a certain list of work that has been approved. Mm-hmm. But while that work is being done, something else pops up. Are you able to modify the loan, or would that be like a second application? And is a second application possible?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So these are really great questions. That does happen, right? So when you're doing home improvement work, somebody opens up your roof, they see, oh my gosh, there's all this rotted wood. We didn't bid on that. So there is a process we have for that. It's called a change order. And so if that happens, the contractor can, and homeowner can come to us and say, hey, we found this problem. We need more money. And so we do have a system and a process for adjusting in those types of situations, because that does happen. It's just the nature of the business. Sometimes you can't see everything when you've been on a job, and we understand that happens. So we do have the ability to kind of add more money if there was a problem or an issue. Usually when we're doing we kind of base the loan amount on the estimate that you get from a contractor. So most of the time we're lending you the specific amount that you need for that particular job. Like I said, if there's an issue or a problem that comes up, we have a change order process where we can add funding. If something comes up and you just say, oh, you know what, I also decided I wanted to do this thing, we may say, okay, let's do that through a change order, or we may say, we just need you to take out a second loan for that particular thing. It might be funded in a different way. It really depends on this. It's really case by case, but we have a lot of people who take out second, third, fourth. We have customers who have come back to us repeat all the time. So yeah, we encourage people to come back to us, and we do. I can think of a bunch of examples just recently where these types of things had happened. So we would either do a change order or we just give them a second loan. So
okay,
both of those things are possible.
Thank you for explaining that, because I was just wondering, because it's like you go in with one issue that you need fixed, and then it tends to turn into 10. So I was just wondering if it was possible to continuously kind of like modify, but I'm glad to know that there is. And I was also looking on your website, my last question, so that everyone else can participate. I was looking on your website, and I saw when I first browsed the website, but I didn't see it again. Was there like a program or a loan that was specifically geared towards accessibility and making your home accessible? I couldn't find it again.
Yes, there was, and it is closed, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't apply, because there's other ways we can help with those types of things.
Okay.
We do have a very specific program. It's called Access to Home. I don't even think it's on the website. It's super difficult for people to qualify for it, and it's really frustrating to those of us working here, but you have to be on Medicaid in order to qualify for that particular program. And I find that almost no one that comes to us for accessibility modifications is income-based as well. But we can use some of our other funding sources that we have, some of which may be, partial, deferred, and non-payback, to assist with accessibility modifications. So I would just say, again, you apply, let us know what you need, and we kind of do all the work in the background and say, okay, here's what we have that can address that.
Okay, will do. Thank you. Thank you for answering all of my questions. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Those are great questions, Tina. Does anyone else have anything they want to ask?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Miranda.
Well, maybe it's a couple questions. First off, what are the typical income guidelines for these programs? I got the closing costs help.
Yep.
And I got another grant for buying in the city of Syracuse, but I just squeaked in under the line on that one. And since then I've got my 2% annual increases. So
some of them are, you know what, every year they change, and I just realized I was going to reference my list, which has been updated. So they're different, but I can give you kind of an idea. Some of them are, they're all different. That's the thing. And some of them don't have any. So it really depends on the type of repair, where you live. I mean, if you lived in one of those special neighborhoods that we were talking about, your income really doesn't matter, and you can still qualify for some of these programs.
I don't live in one of those neighborhoods.
But that's okay. So like I said, we have so many different programs. I'm just grabbing my sheet here with the income, and these are old. I think they've actually gotten better, I guess I would say, maybe gone up. So like, for example, for the urgent care, that county 1% program, family of, well, how many people are in your family, if you don't mind me asking?
Just me and the cat.
Okay, so you'd need to be making under 42.5. Again, I think it's slightly more than that now. I'm sorry, I don't have that right at my fingertips. But then there's other programs where you can be making a little bit more and still qualify for a grant component. So like 47.6. So those are the types of numbers we're kind of looking at.
Okay, so I guess I fill out an application and see what you can do for me. And I bring my neighbor because she needs a new roof and gutters.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, whenever I talk to people who call and want to know, truly the best thing is just to submit an application. It's because we're so complicated and there's so many rules. it's so hard to know what you might qualify for, and it doesn't hurt to just find out what it is. And if it's something that you decide, you know what, I really just don't want to go forward with that, that's totally fine. You don't have to.
I just wanted a ballpark idea, because if I'm over the max for everything, then it would just be a disappointing waste of both our time.
Yeah, I understand.
But my neighbor, she definitely fits into the COVID and the urgent need and the income. So I'll pass all the info on to her too.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
Any other questions? So I'll just quickly say, I mentioned earlier, I am a home headquarters customer. I've had my house painted. I've had my foundation done. I actually had my house painted twice because I've been living in my house for a while. Through other areas of life, I'd end up refinancing and wrapping it into my mortgage, and then able to go back and get another loan based on whatever big project I'm doing. I got windows and doors. And mine were all loans, not grants, but they were affordable interest rates. I did want to just, Tina, I liked your question about, like, can you recommend contractors? Because that's my feeling too. Can't you recommend contractors? I think the bottom line is Home Headquarters isn't in the business of vetting contractors in the way that you would need to do that if you wanted to have like a real good recommendation. I think going with friends and family is your best bet.
It really is.
Recommendations for contractors and talking to people. I mean, you can throw it out to Facebook and get some ideas, but I think talking to people who've worked with them before is really your best way to go, because they're in your home and
they are. And it's good to meet them in person. I highly recommend that too, because then you really can get a gut feeling about them. You know, there are some people who I see our customers using all the time. They love them. And then the next person might hate them. So you got to kind of test them out, meet them.
Yeah. Definitely. And I agree. I do have someone in mind who actually worked on my home when I moved in 11 years ago. And that's the person that I want to go with. That's the person I feel most comfortable with. Mm-hmm. But he's like booked out, he said, for at least the next 2 years. And I'm thinking,
oh my God, 2 years.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of commercial. He does a lot of commercial stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, so he's like busy doing bigger jobs, but he said, if I can fit you in, I will. And I'm thinking, well, I don't know when that if would be. And
right, exactly.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to, but I think I am going to ask around. And I think a lot of people use people that they know, that know plumbing, but aren't necessarily licensed. And I don't necessarily want to go that road.
Yeah.
I want the license insured.
You can sometimes, but yeah, it's much better that they're insured. And, it's always good to have comparable bids too. I didn't mention that earlier, but we don't require people to do that. But sometimes we do have, with some of our programs, we will review the bids to make sure that they seem what we would call reasonable. We have a construction person on staff who is an amazing resource. He and I work very closely together. He's worked in construction all his life, and he's kind of at this point where like he can say, that's ridiculous. No way, you should not be paying that. We don't do that through all programs, but we do with some. So sometimes he'll say, they really need to get another bid, because I at least want to see and compare. So I would always recommend getting more than one if you can. I know it's difficult right now. All contractors are super behind. They're all backed up. They're trying to catch up from COVID. It's a challenging time, but there are people getting work done. So it is possible.
Great. Any other questions? Oh, sorry.
I do have a question. What if you have a friend or relative, or you're pretty handy yourself and can do the work, but need funds for the supplies?
Yep, we can do that sometimes through some of our programs.
Okay, yep. Great. Thanks.
If somebody is in the contracting business, we like to see that sort of, and they want to do the work, but cannot pay for labor, obviously, but we can sometimes do supplies. It's not super common, but we have done it. And I just wanted to say, I looked up the new income limits. And so for one person, one of the sort of grant related programs that has a grant component, you got to be under 44,550, and then another one is 49,896 or below. So they did go up a little bit.
Okay. Sarah, did you have a question?
Yeah, so we have a question on Facebook, and they were asking if someone is a renter and qualifies, can they apply?
That's tough. So we don't have any programs for renters. We have to have the property owner as the applicant, unfortunately. That's because we secure all of our financing by placing a lien on the property. So that person has to sign off, or we're not able to do that.
Do you know of any opportunities for renters to maybe work with landlords?
They could always approach their landlord and let them know, hey, you should check out Home Headquarters. They do have programs for landlords. Not as many, of course, but we do find that sometimes landlords are very limited in their ability to get financing for their properties. So we are usually, again, a place they can come to that can assist them a lot of the time.
The other option, and this is pretty limited, is the city does have some lead money, but you have to have children under the age of 5 in the house, either living there or if you're like a grandparent. And that is when they will use the tenant income as the threshold to determine whether or not they qualify for the program. And if you want more information on that, you can either reach out to the city of Syracuse and their lead program, or you can call NIDA and we will help you ascertain whether or not that makes sense. But that's windows and doors specifically to address lead issues for families with small children.
Right. And our windows and doors program, it is 1 through 205 right now. Again, we're hoping maybe it can be expanded out of that zip code, but that's for landlords would be the applicant, but it's as a tenant, if you kind of wanted to sell it, I mean, that is one of our only grant programs as well. That's non-payback. They can get windows and doors. Again, it's supposed to be to make the house lead safe, because the windows and doors are high, you're opening and closing windows and doors, that we call that a high friction surface. It can create lead dust, which can then, be ingested by a young child. So that's the ultimate goal, but they might not know, hey, you can get a grant to, replace some windows and doors.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Any other questions? This has been a fun conversation.
Oh, good. I'm glad you think it's fun.
I know, maybe I need more entertainment in my life, but
it is fun. There's never a dull moment here.
Yeah. Well, I think, maintaining homes, as I was saying in the beginning, it's so emotional. It's so important. It's always a big expense. It's never like, oh, let me just get a couple $100. It's usually a lot of money, and it's where you live. So it's people in your home, but it's also like going to impact you for a long, long time. It's a great investment. And it's great to know that Home Headquarters is available to help us with those investments. I'm going to take a quick moment. Kim, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and making this information available. I want to remind everybody about the Syracuse Financial Empowerment Centers. They are starting to get back into in-person meetings. So if that's important to you, you can reach out and visit their website at syracusefec.org. You can call them or email them. You can call NIDA if you can't figure it out. We will help connect you. It's free financial counseling for anyone in the city of Syracuse. And it's a great, I'm also a client of that. I think is a great use of time and a great way to think about your life and your goals and your overall financial health. Cash Coalition will be with us through the summer. July, the first Monday in July is right before the 4th of July, and Meredith made the executive decision that we will not host a meeting on July 2nd. So we're going to postpone our Financial Friday to July 9th, and we're pretty sure we're going to talk about budgeting, which is like my favorite topic ever, truly. So I hope people will join us for that. And we will also plan on having a session in August. So everybody enjoy your summer. Again, if you need financial information, reach out to the FEC. If you aren't sure where to turn and you want to contact either the Cash Coalition, Meredith's at the United Way, and Nita is at nita.org. And of course, don't forget to reach out to Home Headquarters if you're planning that next project. And just to allude to somebody, I think it was Tina asking about the timing, I'd say go ahead and apply and find out what you're eligible for, and then you can start booking that contractor and getting on their list. So
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
If you don't mind. It kind of doesn't really relate to this particular Financial Friday, but in terms of the first-time home buyers program, is that limited to certain areas? Or is it just Onondaga County? Would like the town of Salina be included? Or
nope. Anybody can take that class, and you can find out. I am not as well versed in that as I probably should be. And there's also an online version that anyone can take anywhere. So if you go to the website, homehq.org, there's like the categories at the top. There's some sort of a list of things for homeowners and a list of things for home buyers. That's where you would find information about the classes and how to sign up and the availability. But yeah, anybody can take those classes.
So even with like purchase assistance,
that's where it's a little bit harder to find the sort of closing cost assistance. Now, I don't want to say the wrong thing though, because like I said, we're always changing. There's always new programs coming online for that. So I'm actually not 100% sure that we don't have closing cost assistance that could assist, outside of the city. I'm going to look very quickly to see. Closing cost assistance. We do have, and this is not what you're asking, but we can always help people with a loan for closing cost assistance if they're not buying in the city. We do that actually pretty frequently, more than you might think. So if you needed assistance, we could do that. It's a 3% interest rate on that loan. So it's not a bad interest rate. And I'm just trying to see, there might be, it's always worth asking because like I said, things are always changing. We're always getting new programs. It never hurts to ask the question, if you do go through the class to see what's happening, tomorrow there could be something different. So,
Thank you.
My friend went through the program with Home Headquarters and closed on her house in Cicero in the fall. So there's stuff out there.
Yep.
You can definitely take the class. You don't have to be buying in the city of Syracuse at all. And throughout the class, they give you much more detailed information about what are the types of, resources out there for that type of thing. So you would find out about that as part of the class.
Thank you, ladies.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for coming, everybody. Meredith put in the chat, you can also reach out, and then I just closed my chat, Meredith, so I want to make sure I don't misquote here. You can also contact Meredith at the Cash Coalition at cashcny.org. So we will be back with you next month on July 9th, and definitely reach out if you have questions or concerns, and go and enjoy this beautiful, beautiful day, because we deserve it, man. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Kim, thank you so much for doing this for us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks. No problem. Everyone have a great weekend.
You too. Take care. And we'll